On the West Kowloon Terminal Station project, you described your involvement in the change from welded connections to bolted connections in the bracing frame for some of the below ground works on which you were engaged. Stop. You claimed that you had been responsible for the switch from welded connections of this frame to bolted connections. However, you did not satisfactorily explain to reviewers why such a debate was necessary, since the frames themselves were repeatedly used to stabilize the walls of the below ground works, and the components themselves would need to be repeated. It would benefit from being recycled. Stop. Reviewers felt that your explanation for the choice of bolted connections did not adequately take account of the obvious cost benefits of bolted connections to the subcontractor concerned. Stop. You also described your involvement in the design of the foundations for the crane used on the same project. Stop. The calculations were prepared on Lambert Associates calculation paper. They appeared not to have been checked or reviewed, and they were not checked or reviewed. Stop. You did not satisfy reviewers that this was entirely your own work. Moreover, in your report and your interview, you provide no evidence of previous design experience compatible with the crane-based calculations. Stop. Accordingly, reviewers are not satisfied. Accordingly, you did not satisfy reviewers that you adequately met the requirements of the knowledge and understanding of engineering attribute. Stop. 2. Technical and practical application of engineering. You described your general site duties on both the West Kowloon Terminal project and on the Ocean Park Waterworld project. Stop. You explained how you initiated colour coding of stock reinforcing bars to facilitate their selection for cutting and bending on site. You also explained how you'd identified a setting out error of reinforcement and ensured that the error was corrected. You also explained how the specification for concrete, for 45 megapascal concrete to be pumped, and how the slump and other properties were measured on site. Your reviewers were satisfied that you meet the requirements of the technical and practical application of engineering attribute. Stop. 3. Management and leadership. You described your role and duty on the West Kowloon terminal project of managing site operations on a large section of the work. How you held weekly meetings and toolbox talks with your direct reportees, junior graduate engineers like yourself, and your site inspection team. Reviewers were satisfied that you met the requirements of the attribute technical and practical application of engineering. Management and leadership. Stop. Correction. 4. Independent judgment and responsibility. Your initiation of the colour coding of the stock reinforcing bars and how you identified a setting out error in the placing of reinforcement prior to a large concrete pour are described above. Stop. On the West Kowloon terminal project. Stop. Reviewers are satisfied that you meet the requirements of independent judgment and responsibility. Stop. 5. Commercial ability. Although you were able to describe your involvement in measuring progress and cost against the programme and budget for the West Kowloon terminal project, your actual involvement appeared to consist mainly of determining works to be carried out on a weekly basis and measuring work completed. You also checked timesheets and work completed for variations once they had been identified, and checked invoices for payment of these. However, apart from being aware that the project was a lump sum contract, you did not know what form of contract, what form the main contract took, nor were you able adequately to explain why such a contract would lead to variations when the scope appeared to be clearly defined. Stop. Your reviewers were not satisfied that you met the requirements of the commercial ability attribute to a standard that might be expected of a chartered engineer. 6. Health, safety and welfare. You explained how you checked that the work of the contractors and subcontractors with whom you were involved was carried out in accordance with the specification and safety method statements, including method of working, including procedures, and the use of proper PPE. Stop. Your reviewers noted the action you would take in the event of an emergency affecting operatives and members of public. Stop. Whilst you could have been more aware of the Hong Kong equivalent of the UK CDM regulations, your reviewers are satisfied that you met the requirements of the health, safety and welfare attribute. Add, ensuring proper and adequate welfare facilities were provided for operatives. Stop. Seven, sustainable development. On the projects on which you're engaged, your day-to-day work mainly involved accurate ordering of materials to avoid waste and appropriate reuse of surplus materials. Stop. Your reviewers noted your accurate and strong ideas on sustainable development in Hong Kong as applied to energy usage and recycling of grey and salt water for non-potable use. Stop. They also noted your interest in prefabrication and modular construction and your anticipation of its greater use in Hong Kong in the future. Insert at the beginning, you were aware of the three cornerstones of sustainable development, namely environmental, social, and economic elements. Stop. Your reviewers are satisfied that you meet the requirements of the Sustainable Development Attribute. Stop.